It's not that uncommon for cars to be diagnosed with bad ignition coils. Usually it starts with engine misfiring, getting the P0301 or P0302 code, for example, and then the mechanic will start throwing parts one by one, like a spark plug, a coil, a fuel injector, etc. The coils are very often in charge of misfiring, so they get replaced, but unless the diagnostic wasn't really good, they may fail again after just several days or weeks. So why does the repeated coil failure happen so often in cars? First of all, it's because very often we tend to buy aftermarket cheap coils for older cars that are not under warranty anymore. That's quite natural, but when you do so, make sure that the coil is absolutely appropriate for your engine. Also, reading several reviews on the internet would be helpful. Secondly, this may happen because of the bad spark plugs. Actually, the coil may have initially failed because the spark plug wasn't good enough. When spark plugs fail, they don't only make the spark at the tip of the plug. The electrical current may flow all over the spark plug and eventually hit the coil back. Of course, this will kill any coil, no matter what brand of coils you buy for replacement. So I would replace all spark plugs just to avoid having the same misfiring problems in a week or two. The third possible reason is the overheating of the coils. This may happen in two cases: when there is something wrong with the ECU or any other module controlling these coils, or when the engine is overheating. These issues can lead to much worse problems than just coil failure, so you shouldn't drive a car with an overheated engine. If everything else is okay, I would also check connections and wiring. Shorted wiring, loose battery connections, or corroded ground may kill ignition coils quite quickly. You will also get tons of other problems if there are connection issues, but still, this is worth checking if you keep replacing ignition coils one after another. One more thing to check is the health of your 12-volt battery. When you are starting the engine, the battery is the source of power for the coils. Also, the battery cranks the engine through the starter motor, so it has a lot of load. And if at this point the battery is pretty old and has a low charge, it will drop voltage pretty hard. At this moment, coils may suffer a bit because they need a proper voltage supply to work properly. I believe the coils will not be the first thing to tell you about low voltage problems in your car, but anyway, lastly, this can be the problem with another part that's causing the misfiring issue. There is a pretty easy way to check if the coil is in charge of misfiring. Get the current code by using the OBD2 scanner. For example, is the P0303 code, and you know that it's for the misfire in the third cylinder. Then swap the ignition coils between the second and the third cylinder, for example, without changing anything else. Of course, the coils should be reconnected to the needed wires for the respective cylinder. Get the code again. If it's now the P0302, you're sure it's the coil problem. If it remained P0303, the coil has nothing to do with the issue. Now this may be a bad spark plug, a bad wire or connection somewhere, a faulty injector, or maybe an internal problem with the third cylinder causing a compression issue. If you keep replacing one ignition coil after another, make sure you get opinions of different mechanics before you keep on investing money in this kind of repair.